Ready? Alright. You might want to look at the screen, maybe. You might want to look at the screen. Definitely look at the screen. Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly the same directory structure. All right, which one do you want to see? Show of hands, who wants to see not the thing? All right, I'll let you in on a little secret, they're exactly the same. Okay, here we go.
So that's what we've been working on. This is we should transfer over to the iPad.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so audio alert to make sure that we don't explode people's eardrums like when we were warming up.
Right.
Oh, I'm
Turn
scared.
off the audio.
I'm scared. That's
Good? We're good.
One,
Let's
two, three.
Okay, good.
Hey, all right.
Thank God. All is well. Cool. Well, here, I'm going to go through and unplug this guy too.
yeah.
Sorry. Chat amongst yourselves as I hopefully get all this.
Yeah.
We're all plugged in. Cool.
Whoa, that works.
So, for about the last 2 years, we've been working with Lab Zero to go through and build a mobile version of Skullgirls. Right from the get-go, our goal is that we really wanted to build a fighting game for mobile that really captured the depth and essence of a fighting game while at the same time being extremely accessible and built from the ground up with mobile in mind. So I've always been a huge fighting game fan, and I think that the fighting game genre, more so than most genres, has a lot of sort of fans from afar, people who are really into the IP and into the games but don't necessarily, they're intimidated by some of the mechanics and things along those lines. And our goal with Skullgirls Mobile is to make sure that that anybody can go through and pick up this game and play it and have a good time and start to experience what it's like, the joys of playing a fighting game, even if they've never played one before. So on that note, let's go ahead and dive in. I'll show you guys how some of this works. So general disclaimers, this is an in-development build. You'll probably see some UI screens that look a little janky, but that's because they are. We'll be fixing them later. Yeah, go for it. Oh, yeah, sure. Go for it. Say your, while I'm figuring this out.
Okay. I just want to say that having been able to work with these guys, I was pretty impressed because they're actually running our whole decompression tech. So like, that's the same art as in the actual console game, which is like...
Yeah, definitely.
I wish I could explain how hard that is to do. I thought that it was just going to be, render out all the frames as a frame dump and do that. And they were like, no, we're going to do this for real. So it's for real. You get palettes and everything. That was impressive to me.
Yeah, no, we have a really great tech team that's been going through and building this out. And that was really one of the key concepts, is that we wanted to make sure that this felt like it was a true fighting game, not just kind of we exported a bunch of assets and slapped it onto sort of a tap fest. We wanted to actually feel like it was a true fighting game on mobile. We'll just start with some of the basics. So right now I'm in kind of a training mode, so I'm just, that's why the AI isn't doing anything. But the basic inputs are pretty simple. I know I can actually show you, I'll try and do grandiose gestures so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm doing. But the simplest thing to do, obviously, is tap. Tapping will do a simple light attack. If you tap several times, you'll do a combo. That's a very basic combo. All of these combos are things you'll actually also be able to unlock as you go through. There's a whole RPG-style progression system that I'll talk about a little bit later. You can also swipe. If you swipe left, you'll dash backwards. Swipe forward, and you'll do a dash attack. And if you swipe forward twice, you do a knockback attack. Knockback attacks do more damage, but they also knock down your opponent, and so they effectively become combo enders, and combos will obviously be an important part of what we'll talk about in a sec. In addition, you can swipe down, which will do a trip attack. That covers a short distance, also is a little bit of a combo ender. It's a great way to like tack on a final hit or two at the end of a combo. And then if you hold down 2 fingers, you'll block. And if you swipe with 2 fingers, you do a throw. So that's the counter to blocking, obviously. So those are the basics. And a lot of those are relatively new to mobile fighting games as well. But we, as I said before, we really wanted to capture the depth and kind of tactical choices and the creativity, particularly in combo making, that really makes fighting games so much fun. So we also, if you swipe up, you'll do a launcher. And what's the fun of doing a launcher if you can't also tap afterwards to do a juggle? So all of these things are really accessible inputs that even if you've just kind of picking up the game for the first time, they'll generally be pretty discoverable. You can also tap and hold and do a charge attack. That has some special properties. That's also something that you'll unlock along the way. You'll see in the lower left-hand corner, we've got this little George icon here. If you tap that, here, let me knock down Valentine and then get over here. That goes through and summons George. So a lot of the special moves you're familiar with from Skullgirls are actually equipable items. If you think of them like spells or gear, they're things you can collect and unlock as you play throughout the single-player story. And then you can choose which ones you want to bring into play. So that kind of team building and equipment management is a key part of the metagame as well. And then these little buttons down here will trigger our good friends blockbusters. So a lot of these will be familiar for what you've seen before, obviously in the console game. We also have some new ones that we're going to be going through and creating as well. And then if you look in the upper left, I'm obviously a team of 3 right now. If I just go ahead and tap on Big Band, in comes Big Band. I'll explain why he's regenerating a little bit later on. But then, if you want to, you can ultimately mix all these things together. So hopefully, pressure's on. I'll see if I can pull this together. So we'll do a dash attack, tap combo, launcher, air juggle, blockbuster. There we go. Cool. So those are all combos that you can build yourself. Thank you. Thank you. Up late last night, terrified that I was just going to completely whiff that. But I've been working on this game for about 2 years, and we're still finding new combos every single day. And I think that that's a really big part of what gives a fighting game longevity, is to have a lot of that flexibility to be able to go through and have that sense of ownership and create cool things that you want to share in combo videos online, and always find new ways in which you can go through and optimize and things like that. So you probably noticed, I mentioned before, Big Band was regenerating when he ultimately came in. Every single character has a host of different special abilities that you can unlock as you go. So for example, right now, Big Band has this ability called Second Wind, that basically whenever he tags in, he gets a small regeneration.
It's a music pun.
Thanks. He'll be here for all of them. It's going to take a while. But if we go ahead and we tag in Peacock real quick, Peacock has Ensemble Cast, which basically it reduces the cooldown for tag-ins, and so those 2 characters paired onto the same team obviously have a symbiotic effect. So there's a lot of that kind of collectible card game style deck building that we have within the game as a whole also. One of the other cool things that we have is, you see this little brain drain icon down here in the middle? When I tap that, we actually go into what we call Fight Assist mode. Now, Fight Assist mode is basically an aggressive offense-only AI gets turned on for your character. We found for a lot of players that weren't necessarily all that familiar or comfortable with action games, that even the simplified inputs that we had was still a little bit daunting. So what this does is basically the AI will just be full aggro. It's pretty effective against a dummy AI that doesn't do anything or block. So you'll always be more effective if you, the player, have full control over the character. But what it means is that people who are more comfortable playing turn-based RPGs and kind of more strategy-related games, it becomes kind of a tactical mode. So you can always override and tell Peacock when to block, and if she was attacking Valentine when Valentine was blocking, you could do an override and tell her to throw, and then decide to go through into one of your blockbusters. So you can choose when to tag in. So basically it means it's a mode that's available for players that, again, may not be super comfortable with action games in general. They still get a chance to go through and kind of get their feet wet and get comfortable, and then usually after a little bit of time, players tend to shift back over into controlling all the inputs themselves. So cool. So I'm going to jump a little bit. This is basically a quick demo of the combat. I'm going to show you guys a little bit more about the structure of the game as a whole. So I'm going to back out. So be forewarned, temp screens await along the way.
Get used to
I know, thank you for the precedent. That really helps this demo go better. So this is New Meridian, as you guys know. That's basically the backdrop for a lot of the stories that we're going to be going through and telling. So actually, I'll just jump into the story stuff real quick. We're going to be telling all new stories, as you guys saw from the trailer. Been working with Alex to come up with a bunch of new. This is not just us retelling the same stories you guys are familiar with from the console game. They're meant to be complementary stories. So the first season of the game, we're kind of breaking a lot of our stories into seasons, is actually a prequel of sorts. So it all happens before Marie has kind of made her presence known as the new Skullgirl. So you get to do things like interact with Nadia Misfortune before she's been dismembered, and a bunch of these other characters that you know and love. You get to go through and learn a little bit more about their backstory along the way. So there's a whole host of stories that you'll be able to go through and explore, and we'll show more about that as time goes on. But as you play through the game, and as you complete different challenges, you'll unlock more characters. This is a small assortment of the current characters that we have within the game. You'll notice that every single one of these characters has different palettes, and those are all named with different pithy puns and things of the like. Each one of those character variants not only has their own name and palette, they also have their own set of attacks, the animations that we've gone through and pulled from the main game. Different blockbusters, different special abilities, different powers like the regen ability that I mentioned for Big Band or for Peacock. So you can get different combinations and really figure out, as you unlock more characters, what's the ideal team that you ultimately want to assemble as you ultimately level them up. I'll go ahead and tap on, actually, let me show you Philia real quick. So this screen is temp. We're going to go through and clean it up. Sorry, I do that all the time. So she has an ability called Razor Shears, which basically gives her a chance to inflict bleed, which is like a damage over time. Obviously, that's pretty beneficial for her. However, if she was up against Eliza, her Bloodbath variant, she converts all bleed effects that she receives into regen for herself. In addition, if you're fighting against her, when she's maxed out, all these characters are maxed out right now, her maximum ability is if either fighter uses a blockbuster in the middle of a match, both players get bleed, which obviously for Eliza works to her benefit, but doesn't for her other opponent. So all these different abilities basically change the way in which you would ultimately go through and face off against a particular opponent. So there's a little bit of that RPG tactical element to gameplay beyond just the fighting itself. In addition, you can go and equip different special moves. So let's bring up a list here. Some nice temp descriptions for all these moves here, which is always nice. So you can go and basically select from any number of these. These are all moves that you would unlock as you play throughout the game. But you basically have to make a choice of what exact move do you ultimately want to bring with you into combat. Do you want to bring a taunt that'll go through and help basically build your meter? Do you want to bring an outtake that would allow you to force your opponent to tag out, which also debuffs them? It takes away any buffs or negative buffs that they have, just wipes them clean. So there's different tactical advantages there. And then there's other moves that do damage and help you in combos. So lots of different interesting choices that the player ultimately has at their disposal. So there's a lot more stuff that we could go through and show about the game in terms of different modes and things along those lines, but we'll be revealing more of that as we get closer to launch. However, if you guys are interested in playing the game, getting your hands on it, I'm going to be at the Lab Zero booth all day tomorrow with this build, so you guys can go through and check it out. Love to get your feedback. In addition, because we're getting closer to launch, and in the spirit of kind of open development and things of the like, we're going to be opening a beta. And actually, if you go to skullgirls.com right now, you can sign up for that beta, or if you come by the booth tomorrow, you can sign up for the beta there. So, yeah, that's Skullgirls for mobile.
I actually wanted to say for mobile, Charlie already mentioned that Alex has been working on new stories with a team of writers for Skullgirls Mobile, and I just wanted to say that in general, Lab Zero is pretty involved in Skullgirls Mobile. Like, we're going to be doing a bunch of new animations, and so it's all like the same team from Lab Zero contributing to mobile. So it's not like this separate thing where we just farm it out. Like, we're all like very involved in this. So hopefully that's good, I guess.
I also wanted to say, just as an endorsement of all of the puns, they're off the hook in this. So if you like the puns in Skullgirls,
By which you mean terrible,
good.
right?
Yes, exactly. They're so good.
Make your eyes bleed.
Every single time that Charlie shows a new build, I'm like, I can't like handle it, and I'm like, I gotta stop. I gotta go laugh in the other room for 10 minutes. That's great. Also, it looks fantastic. So please definitely come by the booth.
Yeah,
426.
it looks really good. It's actually kind of cool, like
So-
just how
yeah.
good it looks on a smaller screen, like your iPhone.
Yes.
I guess I also wanted to say that this is not us at all abandoning the console versions. In fact, we expect them to grow together in the long term. For example, we plan on eventually adding new characters to the mobile version, which will eventually become expanded on, I mean, if everything goes well, expanded on and become basis for Skullgirls 2 and those sorts of characters. That is not... That is not a commitment of any sort, but that's the plan, because, I mean, we'll be making new characters the same way we made them before and giving them to Hidden Variable to implement, but at the same time, we'll be making them with, putting them in the console game in the end in mind.
One of the advantages in the mobile game is that even though we're basically pulling a lot of the animations from the full console game, the number of animations required in order to make a full mobile version of the character is lower, obviously, than all the stuff you would need for the full console game. So it makes it a little bit more palatable to go through and basically explore new characters and the like. So yeah, we're excited for it to be a stepping stone for new content.
Yeah, it's also because they're using, like, I've seen mobile versions of other things, and like I just want to impress upon you how neat it is that they're using the same art. They're even using the same scripts for a lot of stuff. So, like, I'm implementing most of the stuff that we add, and then we give it to them because it works in both versions of the game, which is pretty neat.
So it means it's more easy for all those things to remain lockstep as well moving forward. And we have lots of really cool ideas for the future of the game that we're hoping both of those products will be able to kind of grow in parallel. So it's pretty exciting.
Okay.
That's it.
So, I have been asked to say this because I don't know how many of you are familiar with my stance on mobile games generally. My involvement in this project has basically been to make sure that it is a thing that you want to play, that is fun, that has nothing to do with trying to take your money all the time. I mean, I am going to guess that a lot of the people sitting here were like, oh, neat, they're cashing in on their thing. Well, everybody at Hidden Variable is familiar with me at this point, asking questions like, is it possible to get this thing without paying? How much time do you have to spend to do this? Is it actually possible to be on the leaderboards for free? How much of this stuff can you get without investing anything? And yeah, that's basically been my whole job, is like make sure it's actually fun, like it's something that you want to play, and make sure that it's not simply taking advantage of the addiction loop that mobile games are basically honed to do at this point. Yeah. I'm not sure how much of a ringing endorsement that sounded like, but like for me that's pretty good.
It's very high praise coming from Mike.
I mean, I think one of the things we said to Hidden Variable starting out is like, we want it to be, like League of Legends, where people play it for free and they can enjoy it, and they give it money because they want to, not because they have to. So we've been really trying to impress upon them that, again, fun first, monetization second, and we just trust that, if you guys are enjoying it, like maybe you'll throw us a couple bucks, but if not, that's fine too.
Yeah, oh, sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, if there's any fandom of which that is true, it's ours.
Yeah, I mean, as Mike already mentioned, I mean, we built the game, from the ground up with the mindset that just about every piece of content that's in the game can all be unlocked, even if you don't spend a dime. Statistically, in most mobile games that are free, the vast majority of players aren't spending money, and so we want to make sure that obviously the play experience is awesome, regardless of whatever decision you ultimately choose to make. So we put a lot of that front and center, and yeah, we're hopefully you guys get a chance to come by the booth and check it out. And as Earl had mentioned before, we have the exact same mindset, whereas we love any and all feedback. The more candid, the better, good or bad. So please don't be shy. Let us know. We're building this game for you guys. So yeah. We're excited to get your thoughts.
You can tell he's qualified to be a mobile developer because he uses words like play experience.
Okay, I think that that kind of wraps up what we have to say, but we would love to hear what you guys have to say.
Before
we-
we go fully into
Oh.
that, were you about to go into Q&A?
Huh?
Sorry, go ahead. Finish your thing, and then I'll
Let's
say
do
the thing.
Q&A.
Yes. Okay, but before that,
Okay.
two things. One, we're oh man, I don't even know where it is. So we're gonna have a signing for Skullgirls voice actors on Monday. Tomorrow at the booth, the first 100 people to come by at 3 p.m. will be on the list. Okay, and we're gonna take a list. Don't worry, dude, I got you. We're good. It's all good. Sweet. Awesome.
99
umbrella cosplay
people
over
now.
there. We're already good. Okay. Yes, 98. Yes, and I'd also, before we go into Q&A, would like to introduce two of our newest team members. Come on up, you guys.
Oh, hi.
Crowd on the mic. Go ahead and introduce.
I'm Eric Kozlowski, lead environment artist.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Francesca, and I just joined as a producer for Indivisible.
Okay, so we should just start and do Q&A. Do we have a mic? We could have people.
What?
Hi. Oh,
I gotta ask, Skullgirls has had one of the highest level of puns of any game I've seen. And I know Invisible has the different game feel, but are we still gonna have a good amount?
I mean, so I just want to say, there's a difference between puns and memes. You can expect puns, you probably can't expect memes.
How does Black Dahlia sleep? Because she has like a gun for an arm.
How does Black Dahlia sleep? She can remove that gun.
She can remove it?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's canon.
So what's going to be the official name for this mobile game?
The official name is just going to be Skullgirls. So, yeah.
We've been calling it Skullgirls Mobile to differentiate because you gotta, right?
Yeah.
And then what program do you use to draw all the frames?
We at Lab Zero we all use Photoshop. It sucks. Don't use it. Like, no, like it's great for drawing, but for animating, it's really not made for animating. If you're looking to animate, I would look at like there's TV Paint, there's Toon Boom, there's just Flash. There's a lot of better tools for animating. We use Photoshop just because we're kind of used to it. And I know even though we use Photoshop internally, a lot of our contract animators still use the other programs that are actually better for animating.
I actually have a question in regards to the mobile. So you mentioned how you do your tap, your slide, and all that. Now, are you gonna do, besides the story mode, multiplayer? Is it local Wi-Fi? Are you gonna do it only online or anything like that, or is it just single player?
So the current version of the game is all single player, but as we talked about before, since we've been building on top of the core Skullgirls technology, all of the AI inputs and whatnot are effectively just performing the same inputs a player would. We actually play local multiplayer in editor, so most of the restrictions that are there are mostly technical to go through and make sure that that's a fun, compelling experience, but I've probably said too much. We're definitely interested in exploring something maybe moving forward. No comment, no comment.
To be more specific with the no comment, it might be some sort of four-letter no comment. Not that kind of four-letter.
I was wondering if any of the Skullgirls will make an like a cameo appearance in Indivisible.
Annie was one. Yeah, Annie was one of our guest characters. She's a guest in the thing that we made both of, I guess. Yeah, and that's the only one that's planned for now.
I also have one. Will any of the Indivisible characters being like works for
quote-unquote Skullgirls 2?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm just going to answer that by saying that in the source art, Ajna is actually exactly the same size as Philia. So, no comment.
Also keep in mind that if we do that, it would be at the cost of some other Skullgirls character that we already wanted to put in. So pick your battles.
If I put her in Skullgirls 2, I would leave her hitboxes exactly the same. No vulnerable limbs, no nothing. She'd be a platform game character.
Yes, I'm wondering, are you guys gonna have as well alternate voices for the rest of the Skullgirls characters, such as you have Republican Double and Salty Parasol? Are you gonna have it for the rest of the characters as well?
I'm just gonna have to say no. So the reason we have those is because during the campaign, the VAs said, yo, it would be really funny to do this. And we kept the promise, but the other ones didn't volunteer, so.
It's also kind of up to the VAs themselves.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that the mobile was one player, but I'm a big fan of one-player campaigns anyway. And I was wondering how you were planning on addressing, I can't even understand why people try to play fighting games online because, 2 frames is enough to break everything. So,
Or 8 frames.
if you have that in the works, or 8 frames. Yeah. How would you possibly address that? Or is it going to be local, which would be, I don't know, Wi-Fi and mobile? I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different ways in which that can ultimately be tackled. I mean, one of the things that we've done in general throughout the entire game is make all of the input windows a lot larger. And so there's a lot of different ways in which, even when I was doing those combos, we have a really forgiving queuing system. So you can actually start a dash attack and then start queuing up your input for whatever the next thing is, so that it makes it a lot more forgiving for people so you don't have to nail a very tiny window anyway. That doesn't solve inherently the problem of all the real-time multiplayer issues, which is a big part of the reason why right now the game is fully PvE only, but we have ideas in the works for ways in which that might be solved if we were ever to do it. Which totally, as I said before, no comment. I should have answered the question.
Nice work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions. One from my friend who's not here. Since somebody already asked about Ajna and Skullgirls 2, I'm going to ask, what about Ajna in Skullgirls Mobile?
Yeah, I mean, I guess not to do the actual no comment thing, but in general, we're in the process of trying to go through and we know we want to go through and add new characters to Skullgirls Mobile. We're still in the process of figuring exactly what that cast would ultimately be. I don't know. I can't speak to anything as it relates to
Well, I mean, from an actual development standpoint, she has way less than you need for a fighting game character because she's a platform game character. So it would be a bunch of extra work. That's not to say that there might not be extra work, but as of now, it's not just a straight port.
I noticed that in the Skullgirls Mobile, there's a different soundtrack. Will that be viable?
To be honest, I don't know, but maybe, sure, kind of, probably. Yeah, we're in the process. You've probably, it's very softly. I wasn't sure if anyone's going to hear it, but yeah, there's a number of new tracks that have been made specifically for Skullgirls Mobile, so I'm sure we'll find a way to go through and make those available for folks who want to get them. So.
Yeah, the cynic in me says it's a mobile game, so if you want to buy it, we'll sell it. But
first off, I just want to say that Mario, you're incredibly cute, and don't make me come down there. And my question is, what made you decide to do like an RPG Metroidvania game instead of just making Skullgirls 2?
Yeah, I mean, part of it was that we pitched a number of games after the original Skullgirls, like when we were trying to figure out what else to do to stay alive. And a particular company we pitched to asked if we had anything that was in the vein of Child of Light. So we looked up Child of Light, and it said, like Valkyrie Profile, which turned out not to be the case. And so we came up with the gameplay part of this pitch, and we combined it with another thing that Peter actually had for a long time. I've had 3 game types that I've always wanted to make. A fighting game was one, obviously. A Metroidvania was another one. And being able to combine that battle system with that gameplay is just something that we've never seen before. The other serious part of this answer is we'd never done it, so we don't know how hard it is.
Well, I also want to say that I suck at Skullgirls. I'm really bad at fighting games. So I know for a bunch of us, we're actually all really excited that this is a genre that we all play and love. So now I can play our game. That's cool. Also, I could probably play Skullgirls Mobile, so that's something.
Let's hear it for Sora.